And welcome back to Cottage Talk. This is our post-match show of Fulham's 1-0 victory against Sheffield United. We did a full-time show right after the match. Well, this is our post-match show where we go a little bit more in-depth into the match, and we also have some interesting topics as well. Joining me is Max Cohen in the bottom square. In the right-hand square is Claire Parrish. So, guys, before we really go and break down this match, I'm going to start here because, again, I kind of teased this to you before we went live. I have to say this because we're recording this right after this happened. So let's give a big thank you to Manchester United. Max, big thank you to Manchester United. They just helped out Fulham today. Thank you, Marcus Rashford. Thank you, Daniel James. Thank you, Bruno Fernandes. 3-1. And that extends the goal difference between Fulham and Newcastle United. How you doing, Max?
Yeah, I'm doing great. My good friend Joe is actually a massive Man United fan, so delighted for him, delighted for Fulham. And it's going to be like this for the next 14 or so, 13 matches. I'm going to be rooting for Fulham and whoever plays Newcastle United, and that's the two teams I'm supporting for the running.
That's right.
So, it'll be great. You're going to ask me whether I'm Mad Max or Optimus Max.
I am. Let's go right there. Are you Mad Max or Optimus Max?
Yeah, I'm delighted. I'm optimistic. I mean, I've been consistent on the show that all I needed was a sign from Fulham that they're actually fighting.
I think you got one.
And we got 2 wins in the space of 6 days. And what more can we ask for? I tweeted this after the match. From September to mid-February, right? We won 2 matches. And in a 6-day spell in late February, we won 2 matches. That's all we need to turn around our season. It's getting those wins, getting that optimism back in the side, the belief. You guys all saw the post-match interviews with Parker, Lookman. There's belief in this team.
Absolutely.
They said we're only focusing on Fulham. And
that's
to be honest,
I like that.
The performance has been there. We just weren't getting that extra factor. And I was just so delighted for Lookman. He's had a tough spell of matches when he's been playing decently, getting good positions, but just not finishing. He deserved that goal as much as anyone else in terms of the attacking creativity he brought. And we need a player like that who can take an otherwise 0-0 match and turn it, on a sixpence, and he did that superbly. And I just can't wait to talk more about a win. It doesn't happen very much with us this season, but we have 2 again, and I said in a week. And yeah, can't wait to do it.
Okay, and when we talk about that goal, it wasn't just about him, and you know that. It was also about the great pass from Anderson. We'll get to that in just a bit. Claire, you're usually positive just like me, so I want to get your opening view of the match. You and I we chatted about an hour before the match. I told you I was a little bit nervous because I just saw all the pressure I believe was put on this one match. Playing Newcastle, I'm sorry, there's a little slip there. Playing Sheffield United, that again, this was so much was put on this, and I thought maybe there was way too much pressure put on one match. But you know what? The team stepped up. I did think that they came out a little tight, and maybe the pressure was. Maybe they were feeling it a little bit, but they got into the match. Something happened in halftime because they were a different team in the second half. Just give me your opening view.
Yeah, well, like you say, we had this conversation an hour before the game, and our concern was very much that it's going to be the way we come out. And if we come out, nervous and afraid to create anything, to make any chances, to do anything a little risky, it could go horribly wrong. And, my fear was that if we went out like little tiny birds, not big, brave lions, we would, we could easily come a cropper in the first 10 minutes and let 1 or 2 goals in.
Yep.
Thankfully, once that 15 minutes sort of passed, and I thought, no, we're holding our own here. We're doing all right. We're in control. We're controlling this game. It felt good. And, what we saw was the team that actually have confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's so lovely to see because, the players as individuals do get some stick on social media. That's putting it politely. That has to, be in the back of their heads a lot, especially going into, the big games like these ones. So, for them to go out being pretty big, brave lions was great to see. And, it is that belief in themselves. It is that confidence in them as individuals, but in their place, in their part of the team. that you can see that there. And I just thought we came out, completely in control of what we were doing from the very beginning.
Okay.
It was a little bit tentative at first, but it was still controlled.
That's a great way to put it, because I put this up last night and I'll share it with you guys now because I want to ask you guys a question. Because I thought Fulham played not to lose in the first half. Now, you put an interesting spin on it. Was it a controlled play? And I agree with that, but I don't think it was taking enough risk. I thought it was playing it safe. And actually, guys, I'm going to ask you this. Max, first half reminded me of Parker Ball. Parker Ball returns. Now, to Claire's point, was it more of a control, let's just get to the half, kind of old school Scott Parker from last season? Or did they play a little scared? Your thoughts, because she thought that they were in control, that they were playing with confidence, but they were playing it safe, I thought.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Parker Ball, because it reminded me of a championship match in many senses.
See, that's how it felt to me.
Yeah, it felt like I was watching them in the second tier, because let's just be clear from the start. Sheffield United were awful.
They were horrible.
Really, really poor. And, Chris Wilder, I think a lot of people.
Sorry, Chris Wilder, your team was horrible.
But they were terrible. And they did kind of spark into life after we scored, to be fair. But there was just no intent from them.
No.
And it very much reminded me of the Everton match in a way of just like, there was really only one team in it for an hour. But we didn't take advantage of the way I thought we would, As Claire mentioned, it was controlled, but I did feel like we just wasted the first 45 minutes in terms of feeling them out. And, it was Adebayo to Anderson. It reminded me of flashbacks of, Ream to back and back and back. And I
felt the same way, Max.
I was getting frustrated because there weren't really any clear-cut chances. I thought Ramsdale was, called into action, but mainly just a tip over, wayward crosses. It wasn't really any good on-target chances. Much in the way I think the first half at Goodison Park went. But I think what we're seeing in this team, which is impressive in the wins we've had recently, is that we start the second half with our foot on the gas. And that's a really big
point.
I think that
completely different team.
Yeah, because I can criticize Parker for maybe not sending out his players aggressive enough to start the match, but you have to give him credit for what happens at the halftime interval.
Absolutely.
They came out a new team. But I do think it was a little bit of Parker Ball, a lot of sideways passing, not a lot of shots on target. But you cannot fault that we got the win in the end. And that's really all that matters now.
And that's going to go to what I also mentioned last night, Claire. And I said this to you. Fulham went ugly, but who cares? Really, in the end, listen, we're going to analyze the match. We're going to break it down, and we will criticize. But in the end, it was all about getting the 3 points.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's all that counts. And, at the end of the day, we have watched some really blimmin' horrible, boring matches and come away disappointed. I can sit and watch 90 minutes of boring, horrible Fulham if it ends up with 3 points. I can also watch us lumping passes up the field and putting them right over the terraces. As long as we win, I don't care. We could play in clown costumes and win. I wouldn't care. We just need to win.
Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Guys, before we get and talk about the starting 11, the 18 overall, I just want to get your biggest takeaway from the match. We'll go around the room. I'll start with you, Max. What's your biggest takeaway to come out of this match? At the very end of the show, I do have some topics that we will save for the end that deals with Newcastle. But biggest takeaway to come out of this match from a Fulham perspective for you?
I think it's Lookman's goal, because if he can be a player who provides goals from the left side midfield, it'll be such a valuable asset heading into the run-in. Now, as I said in past weeks, we can't just rely on Maja. We can't just rely on, Mitrovic. The striker can be the main source of goals, but he can't be the only one scoring. And it was just really nice to see Lookman chipping in, because he gets in really great positions, but we haven't seen the finishes recently. And the fact that he scored could be that gives him confidence. Strikers and wingers are very, hot and cold players. Once one goal goes in, it seems to flow. Everyone likes to bring up the Panenka penalty, and I think he's responded really well from that. But I think that did weigh on him, because all everyone wants to talk about whenever you look at him, you think Panenka, West Ham. So if you can shift that mentality and think of that, I think he
redeemed himself.
Yeah, for sure. And also it's a sense that this isn't even a tactical thing or even a tangible thing, but turning the draws into wins, right?
Yeah, of course.
Not rocket science again. It's like everyone knows that's what we need to do, but it just felt different. Against West Ham, I'd argue we played better against West Ham than we did against Sheffield United.
Yep.
But we didn't get that final goal. And you never really felt confident we'd break their back line. But against Sheffield United, just getting that goal in, just doing that extra bit of luck in the final third. Lookman gets tackled and falls through with it, or just getting it right through Ramsdale's legs when it could have just gone right to him.
He went for power, and
it just feels like the tide's turning.
Yeah.
In the same way the Everton match felt fortunate that we got some lucky breaks and the rebound fell right to Madja, etc. Football is a game where you get luck and you get hot and cold spells, and it just feels like momentum is shifting. And this isn't like an analytical thing. You can't say we did this. Because I don't think the tactics were massively different, but there's more belief now, and I think players will start playing with more confidence.
Right. And Emilio said this last night, Max, and then Claire, I'll go to you and get your biggest takeaway. Don't Fulham deserve some luck? Honestly. Because there have been so many situations, and we'll talk about what happened with Areola later on in the show, okay? But when I look back at that, I can think of the other situations that have gone against Fulham. So I think everything has a way of evening itself out. And you could argue you make your own luck by playing well. And honestly, they deserve some luck, Max.
100%. Because let's think about the VAR decision that went against us at St. James's Park.
Exactly.
I
go right to that.
Yeah. But to be fair, I don't think it was a penalty. I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. But
we'll talk
I could see how it would be given, and we've seen them given in those situations, and it would have been just.
But they made a swift decision, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
But you're right. I think there's so many matches we played this season when we were the better side. We created so much and came away empty-handed. Maybe the tide's turning and we're going to start, doing some smash and grabs or just playing ugly, as you mentioned.
Again, I don't care. At this point, really, it doesn't matter how it looks as long as it's 3 points, Claire. And I want to get your thoughts on making your own luck and luck going Fulham's way, because over the course of the season, I think that Fulham haven't had their share of luck enough. I think this match it kind of went their way. Finally, that they got some luck.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're great as football supporters in general of bemoaning that we haven't had the luck that your big teams have had. And I think as I think the minute we went up to the Premiership in whatever year it was. What was it, 2001, something like that? I can't remember. What was it, in the late 90s? Anyway, my memory's rubbish, excuse me. I think we've always moaned it. We go to my nan's after football, after every home game, and every home game I can remember, certainly against the big teams, it's we're never lucky. And, it does feel now that there is a little bit of luck on our side.
Absolutely.
A little bit of fortune. And it's almost like that sort of pinch me thing, because it doesn't happen to Fulham. It doesn't happen to little old Fulham. Usually we're all in my family on our WhatsApp groups and what have you. We're all bemoaning the refs. The officials hate us. Sky Sports hates us. Everyone hates us. And actually, it's, I know we're going to talk about the Areola thing later, but it does feel that there is someone looking over us. There is a little guardian angel sitting above Craven Cottage watching over us, and it feels nice. It feels nice that it has happened, because there have been times where some of the things that have gone against us, or plain bad luck for no one's, through no one's fault. And even you could talk about, is it bad luck that we've had some players that have been a bit naughty and broken the COVID rules and all that? Is that bad luck, or is that them being Berks? There's a lot of things that have gone against us, and just now it's like, well, hang on a minute, we do have a fairy godmother. She's here, she's got her wand, and she's waving that fairy dust around, and it feels good.
Okay, excellent there, Claire. And it's interesting because we talk about luck and things going against you. How about the situation with Liverpool going off of Kamara? We could talk about that. What if the ball goes just a little bit in a different direction? Who knows? And that didn't go Fulham's way, and we can talk about that another time. But that's kind of where I'm going, that sometimes luck does follow you when things are going better for you, and it just kind of snowballs from that. And things have a way of evening itself out. So it's funny because I knew a lot of the talk, guys, was going to be about the Areola situation by the media and also on social media. I knew that was going to be, and I tried to say my piece on that. That again, put more of the focus on the actual match because Fulham were the better side. We can talk about that all you want. You can moan and groan all you want about that. But in the end, Fulham were the better team. And honestly, Sheffield United didn't deserve anything from that. So that's the way I look at it. But over to you, Claire. Your biggest takeaway, we talked about Max's. Give me yours. What do you take out of this match?
I think, Max sort of said what my thoughts were in terms of the confidence, not talking about one specific player, but just that belief, that confidence is building. Every match we go into and we're in control of it and we get something out of it, that confidence is building. And Max, you said about Lookman and obviously, his own personal confidence building from that. And, the penalty, what penalty, that was, who cares about that now? But it is just that confidence in the team. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from me is we're building week on week, we're building. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is the fact that, we could have gone out there as little cowards, but we didn't. And, we're going to build on that for next week and the week after and the week after. That to me is the biggest.
Okay, excellent. I kind of already said my biggest takeaway, and that's I don't care if we win ugly. That's really it for me. I don't care. It's about the 3 points. It's about going up the table and catching a team that's in front of us. Now, there are a couple of teams that are now closer to us, which is funny because I know we're all focused on Newcastle. But there are other teams that, again, they still need to gather points too. So it just makes things a lot more interesting from week to week. And we're going to be in this each and every week, guys. We're going to be talking about the teams around us. Can we catch them? And in a way, it's fun. In a way, it's nervy, though. But you know what? That's what this is all about, being a Fulham supporter. I've learned that from the beginning of my journey on The Great Escape. That's why, and again, I hope this is a different version of that, meaning I hope Fulham continue to win and take that situation and get out of the bottom three. But it could be another Great Escape. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, guys, let's now turn back to the match and let's focus on the starting 11 and the 18 overall. Max, your thoughts when you saw this an hour before the match?
There are actually a fair few changes in there.
There were.
Tete drops out. Aina goes to right back. Robinson comes in. Lamina drops out for Anguissa.
Yes.
No Decade-over-Reed there.
Some very interesting moves here.
Cavallera starts. So actually was chopped and changed quite a bit, which I think was necessary given that, the team that played against Everton played against Burnley, the exact same team. So they needed a rest, I think. I thought it was a good call to bring Anguissa back. I was a bit frustrated by his finishing, but I thought generally he had a good game.
Yep.
And I think Tete might feel a bit aggrieved to be dropped because I think he's been quite good at right back. But interesting to see Robinson back. I don't think he had the best game.
But does that talk more about how Aina is playing?
Yeah, Aina's played well. And he had a couple of really nice bursts forward from right back. So he can be that attacking option. And I think it's good that we have depth, that we can kind of swap those players.
That's right.
Depth, Joe Bryan and, Tete could be coming off the bench. That's a good situation to be in. And I think Cavallera starting, he was bright in many situations. He made things happen. It just the final ball is never there for him, and he's just shooting over, crossing over, making the wrong option. But honestly, I don't hate it.
Decision making is
I don't
not
hate
the greatest.
I really could go either way with him or Decade-over-Reed because I do think Cavallero was energetic, and he does everything you want.
If you're asking me, I would rather have Bobby Decade-over-Reed, but I understand. But I see the value that Parker can see in him because he does offer a decent amount. He just can't finish, and I do question some of his decision making, Max.
But I think on the wing, it's a lot more palatable than him starting up front. So
that's a good point.
You can convince me.
Where do you put him? If you put him in a better position to succeed, if you put him as your main striker, that's not a good place for him. Centrally.
Yeah.
Okay. Over to you, Claire. Your thoughts on the starting 11? Were you surprised by some of the changes?
No, I mean, Max, you've pretty much said what was on my mind when sheet. You know, I think if we had had the players again who had started with the previous two, they would have been exhausted, and I think it would have set us up for a fall straight away. I think, you know, having the freshness there, the Cav, it did make me raise an eyebrow. I was like, really? But actually, you know, I'm with you, Russ. You know, his some of his decision making at times is just, you know, head hands moments. But, you know, he creates something out there, and God love him. I wish that little fairy godmother that's over us right now, I wish she could wave her wand and give Cav his scoring boots, but that's not going to happen. But do you know one thing? And I said this to Flissy last night when we were watching the game. With Cav, he tries, and you cannot knock him for that.
That's a great point.
100%. And yeah, okay.
He's giving you everything that he has. It might not be at the level that we want it to be, but it's not from a lack of trying.
100%. And I wanted to get that in there because, you know, a lot of people are quite unpleasant about him, and he gives 100%. Bless him. He really does. And you can't knock him for that. But, you know, overall, I was happy with the team. I was disappointed by Robinson yesterday.
I've seen some comments about his play, and once he has returned since the suspension, he hasn't been the same player, guys, for whatever reason. And I've been a huge advocate of his because I see his ability, but his crossing isn't good enough. He certainly is very good going forward. Defensively, I don't think he's as solid as our other fullbacks. So that's what makes this interesting. But I see his potential. I just don't know why we haven't seen the same player. It's a good point, Max. Why do you think we haven't seen Robinson the way that we have seen him before the suspension? Do you think maybe that has weighed on his brain or something, that he's, you know, again, maybe thinking too much out there? What are your thoughts about why Robinson hasn't played at the same level after the suspension? It's a very interesting topic here. I'm curious your view on that because he's not the same player right now.
Yeah, I don't really have a great answer because I don't really know what's going on per se, but a theory could be when he was in the side before the Chelsea resending off, he was left wing back in a back five. Now he's slotted back into a back four. Okay. So he maybe has more defensive duties and he doesn't have the luxury of that third center back there. Just a theory. And also I think it might affect your confidence. Like you're playing well, you're in the groove, you get sent off and you do feel bad, you let the team down. That's a theory. But just one more note about starting 11.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which is remarkable. You look at that team, it's a completely new back five from last season. And Harrison Reed and Ivan Cavallero are the only two players who played any role at all in that championship season last season. And Anguissa
and Harrison Reed, as they said, was the only one that started.
Yeah, which is just remarkable. And I do think we need to take a step back and realize, like, having 9 out of the 11 players being transfers, or essentially, you know, I'll count Anguissa because it wasn't here last season. Sure. 9 out of 11 being new players. What does that do to a dressing room? What does that have to do to a manager? And I think we need to give Parker a tremendous amount of credit. So many teams, when they get promoted, it's that same core they stick with. And I think you'd point to Leeds. That was what Burnley have done very successfully.
Sheffield United did it last season.
Sheffield United.
Obviously not doing it this season.
And we've chopped and changed, but it's all been necessary changes. And it's finally paying off right now in February.
But what's interesting, and I'm glad that you brought this up, and it's a very interesting point. It goes back to something Claire said. I think this team is galvanized around Parker, that they have bought in. Yeah. Because if you listen to Ademola Lookman after the match, that actually I thought was striking what he had to say. He's just looking at Fulham. They're focused on Fulham. They're not focused on the other teams around them. They might in the back of their minds, but they're not saying it out loud. They're all focused on the duty at hand, the job at hand, each and every match. That starts with Parker, and they're all buying in. You can see it. And I've said this, Claire, this Fulham side is very likable to me. I know a lot of these players are loans and coming from different situations, but it seems like they've all come together, and I do like this team. I really do. And I do hope that we do stay in this division because I'd like to see a lot of these players stay with Fulham because I just like the way it all fits. I like the way that they're playing. I wish the finishing was better, obviously, but I do like this team, Claire.
Yeah, and actually that's another thing Felicity and I were saying last night, because she said, "Who's your favourite player?" And I reeled off about 6 or 7 of them.
Well, that should tell you
I
something.
like them all equally. Usually I have a standout, and I think being not in the terraces, I don't this season as well. But actually I like them all because I can see everyone's value. You know, there's not
They're
one
all playing a role.
on
These
the
are a
pedestal.
lot of them
Yeah.
are role players, all playing a role. And
Yes.
again, when I look at teams, I just watched a match with Newcastle United that you can just tell they rely heavily on Callum Wilson. When you take him out, Zaha, when you take him out of Crystal Palace, when you took out Calvert-Lewin out of Everton, they're not the same. Fulham need better finishing, obviously, but this is a true team. And I think that, to me, is why I think they can withstand some of the issues that they have better than other teams, better than potentially Newcastle United, because I think they are really up against it without having Callum Wilson. They, to their credit, I watched the match, and I thought they fought hard against Manchester United. But again, I think that loss really hurts them. But I think we're in a completely different situation, Max. We're a team that's built together to fit together. And I couldn't say that 2 seasons ago. When you look at the players, I would say, do these players fit? I think these players fit. And what's great about it is that you can mix and match. We just went through the starting 11, and there were changes because you have these pieces of the puzzle that Parker can mix to get the right formula for each match. And I think that's important.
Yeah. And I think what needs to be said again is when a lot of, observers who aren't Fulham supporters look at what happened in 2018-19, their immediate, critique is, oh, Fulham spent £100 million. They changed the
They go
squad
right
too
to
much.
that.
But however, my take is, and I think you guys will agree with me, it's we didn't change the squad enough. Look how many matches a Tim Ream and a Doy played, right, at center back in 2018-19. And this year, thank God, Hector Remador getting nowhere near the starting 11. It wasn't that we didn't do – it's not that we did too much that season. So we didn't do enough. And I agree we brought in the wrong players. But it shows that – and listen, Tony Khan divides opinion. You have to give him a massive amount of credit. And I think I can say both things at once. I can say the fact that we didn't have a striker until January, another one, was a disgrace. But what he's done with that back five, I mean, Areola, he should be a keeper playing in Europe, Champions League football.
Hands down.
Anderson, Adarabioyo, I can make the argument they're the best center back pairing in the bottom half of the table. I mean, our defensive stats show that out. And the fact that, we've got in Aina, on cheap, Tete cheap, Robinson cheap. It's a great job in terms of transforming a squad. Yeah, so I think we really need to give credit where it's due because this team needed a massive overhaul in the summer. We've gotten it. And it probably makes sense that it's taken about, 6 or so months longer to get them to finally click because they weren't playing it all together until the fall.
Well, look at what happened at the beginning of the season. And we can talk about that because you look at that team that played against Arsenal to the team that we're seeing now. They're two completely different teams. And you said it, Max. It needed an overhaul. And unfortunately, it took time. And that was my concern, the quick turnaround. I just thought it was going to be hard. And this was a little bit predictable that they were going to struggle from the get-go. Did I think it would be where we are right now? I hoped it wouldn't be, but I feared it. I feared it because I knew that they needed to change many players. I knew that there were a lot of players there that just weren't good enough for the Premier League when we're coming back 2 years later. So it took some time. But again, I look at the team and I think that the players all fit together. Now, they're going to need those special moments because you can play together as a team, but you need those creative players that can make the difference. That's going to be the difference. It's not going to be defense. It's not going to be playing together as a unit. It's going to be those special moments. They're going to need players, as you said, Max, like a Lookman, like Amaja, and I will say this, like Mitro, because they need Mitro. They need Mitro at some point to come in here and be a part of this, okay? I think he can play a part of this. So, again, they need players to step up and score those goals. That's what they're missing. One goal a match is just not going to cut it. They're going to need more goals. That's the problem. When we talk about some of the topics at the end of the show, when we talk about losses and draws, that's going to be, for me, what is the difference with some of these teams. They're scoring more goals than Fulham. And we'll talk about that when we get to the second half of the show. But coming up next, We're going to break down the first and second half, go to man of the match, and we have some extra topics for the end of the show. Okay, guys, let's talk about the first half. You know what? I wish we didn't have to talk about the first half because I was a big fan of it. But you know what? We should talk about the first half. So, Max, I'll go to you first. And, when you look at it, and I'll put this graphic back up, again, this is just my opinion. Fulham played not to lose in the first half. They, as Claire said, and I thought Claire did a nice job by saying that maybe it was a controlled play, that they were just feeling their way in, but it really truly was park a ball. When you talk about the first half, you do have some opportunities. In the 16th minute, you have a shot by Anguissa. 18th minute, you have a shot by Lookman. 19th minute, you have the shot by Ruben Loftus-Cheek. So we are creating opportunities. In the 35th minute, you have that shot by Cav, and then you have another one 1 minute later. And then even Harrison Reed, and I like the fact that Harrison Reed is shooting more. 42nd minute. And then the 45th minute, you have the header by Ruben Loftus-Cheek. What's interesting about all these opportunities that I'm mentioning here, guys, is that they are taking more shots, and I do believe that they are now instructed, this is just my opinion, to shoot more. And I don't have an issue with that. Are these quality opportunities? Some yes, some no. But I just mentioned some opportunities, but overall, there was really no cutting edge in the first half, Max. Your thoughts of Fulham's first half?
Yeah, and I'd agree with what you said about the quality of the chances. I think almost everyone you listed off there was from outside the box.
Yes.
So it shows that, Sheffield United kind of had that defensive line on their 18-yard box and didn't let us really go further or penetrate. And it was just all kind of shots in front of them, which is very easy for the opposition to defend, and nothing really troubled Ramsdale. I think probably one of the best chances was Loftus-Cheek's header.
Yep.
I think he should have done a lot better. I think put it on target because he jumped well, got essentially a free look at it. But apart from that, it was just very frustrating because so much of the passes seemed to go either sideways or backwards. I was getting annoyed at times with Harrison Reed because I just felt like he was doing kind of the Scott Parker as a player, kind of pirouette, just turning around and going back for no reason, even when he didn't really have pressure on him. And Anguissa wasn't playing. It was just so slow, the announcer said. It was just, there wasn't that intensity. And I feel like the exact last 15 seconds of what I just said, you can copy and paste that, watch back what I said in the championship last season, and you'd find something very similar.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the difference. And let's just talk about Sheffield United, though. Don't think they had an entire shot on target the entire first half. It was just there for the taking. They're just a team who
I think that's what was
not
so
going to have any
frustrating,
ambition.
Max.
Yeah, and we didn't quite pin him down enough. I think that was the reaction on Twitter was. I know you're trying to stay off social media, Russ. I applaud that.
I did. I wasn't on during the match, by the way. I stuck by that.
Good. Definitely made you happier because I was looking at the stuff and on Twitter at halftime, and it was just like, we've just wasted a half of football against the worst team in the league. What are we doing?
I didn't want to see it.
That's true. But then again, we'll talk about the improvement in the second.
We will. Claire, you kind of already gave your thoughts on the first half, but watching the match with you and your daughter, what were you seeing in the first half?
Just listening to Max there, and I said, I think we played in a controlled way. Whether we did that, and I was just thinking about this just now, Max, while you were talking, is whether we did that as a slightly psychological advantage, maybe, to go out there and say, you know what, we're not going to let you have much of this ball. We're not going to let you have much of this game. We're going to go do our thing. We're going to have a bit of a knock around. You wait till the second half and see what we unleash then. I don't, maybe it was a little bit of a tactical thing. We're not great at putting the ball in the net. Everyone knows that. People who don't even follow football, like my mum, God love her, she knows that. But the fact that we just did have that control, does that give a slight psychological advantage going into half time for the team, the opposition to be thinking, how are we going to get the ball? How are we going to score? Who knows?
That's a very interesting way to look at it because the way Fulham played it, and I want to mention this is from our friend Tony Gold, because this is kind of how I felt about it, guys. First half, simple. Two teams playing with a lot to lose. And I think that's how I felt watching it. It's like they weren't willing. I'm talking about Fulham, and of course the same thing with Sheffield United. They were so passive that they were like, I understand what Claire's getting at, that this also reminded me of so many championship matches. Just get it to the half, but this team was there for the taking, but it almost was like they just did not want to take the risk to make a mistake, to cause something bad to happen when they got to the second half. So, again, I agree with Tony here. Two teams playing with a lot to lose. Max, your thoughts?
I actually disagree with that. I think Sheffield
Okay.
United are down. I think they know they're down. I was surprised, they didn't play with more, freedom in a way. I only saw one team really playing that first half. So
Right, I agree with that.
but I think Fulham are playing cautious. They didn't want to be exposed. But the counter argument to that is Sheffield United showed nothing to even suggest they'd even trouble us in that first half. I think Claire's been getting some post-match tips from Scott Parker, because that's almost exact. I feel like we have Scott Parker on the show with us. He's a great defense of the tactics, and I think you made some really great points there, Scott. I definitely see that, because
Wait a minute, you just called her Scott.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's
okay.
It's Parker ball.
Okay.
I'm his PR person.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. But and I see those merits. The one thing I would say is, like, the longer it stays 0-0, I think.
Yeah,
I would actually say the opposite. The more belief Sheffield United has,
well, see, that's what concerned me.
But hey, it worked out for us, so I can't quite question it that much, because we got the win. So
okay, I'm going to share this comment from David Wilkins. Play conservative, but it seemed we tried to stretch United, similar to what we did at Everton in the first half. But again, like Everton, we didn't capitalize on that situation. But again, it was a completely different second half. So let's transition, guys, because I'd rather talk about the second half, because the first half, again, let's move on from that, because the first half was just the first half. But the second half, again, let's start right here, Max. I'm going to go right to you, because I want to talk about the opportunity here, because I've already said that this player was my man of the match, and that is Ruben Loftus-Cheek. But I'm going to talk about the opportunity here. He had a great opportunity in the 53rd minute, because let's go right there. Great chance to score, but it's cleared. But it just showed his potential, this move. But I'm thinking to myself, he needs to score here. Your thoughts on the opportunity in the 53rd minute from Ruben Loftus-Cheek? I think I fell out of my chair at that point, because I could not believe he didn't score.
Yeah, it was. He does everything so well in the build-up play. I mean, the 1-2,
that's the crazy part of it.
The fact that he sticks with the ball, gets a lucky bounce, but falls through with it, is always one who's positive, trying to get the chance off. And then he's just through on goal and has the weakest, laziest swing of the left boot at it. My dad calls Loftus-Cheek the gentle giant, because he's so skilled, and he's a really big guy.
That's actually a good way to look at it. The gentle giant, I like that.
Yeah, he's no cutting edge. He's the most toothless player I've ever seen in the final third, because he possesses the skill to get there.
He has the body, he has the stature, everything.
And what's weird is, so the announcers kept saying, "Oh, he's tremendous ability, his technique's amazing."
Yep, they kept saying that.
I really want to disagree with that. I think his shooting technique is abysmal. I think
at
it's
least
actually
with
really,
us, it has been
very, very poor, like actually awful, Cavalier-esque, in the sense that once he's in the final third, either he's leaning back and shooting rose ed, or he's placing the softest pass in the world to the keeper, or he's shooting wide. I mean, that's just poor technique or composure. I don't know what it's down to. But you really thought that would be the moment, because we started off kind of pitting Sheffield United, and you notice the possession that led to that. We were on the edge of their 18-yard box, instead of kind of passing around at the halfway line or an hour and a half.
Right.
We moved it. And I think that's kind of what Claire and Scott Parker would say, is that we step it up second half and we kind of camp out outside of their 18-yard box, and that's much more effective.
Right. And then you could just see Fulham being a lot more assertive. I think that's a good word to say in the second half. And it continued. But I do want to mention, before we talk about the goal, and Claire, I'm going to give you the chance to talk about the goal in just a couple of minutes. But in the 55th minute, you do have, again, the first decent opportunity from Sheffield United from Billy Sharp. It goes over in the 55th minute. That made me a little bit nervous. Right after the situation with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, it would fit Fulham that they would give up a goal right after that. But then we have the goal in the 61st minute. And what's great about this is we're talking about going forward. We're talking about being more assertive. I don't think you can be more assertive, Claire, than Joachim Anderson's pass to Ademola Lookman. And his goal, again, fantastic goal. Can we just see more of this, Claire, from Ademola Lookman? But also, I want to even see more of this from Joachim Anderson. He has this in his locker. He has it. We've seen it. This was a wonderful pass. This was,
Oh,
again, direct, right to Adamola Lookman, and boom, goal. Match changes right there, and they needed that badly.
Yeah, Russ, you've just taken the words out of myself. It was just the most beautiful pass. It really was. And in actual fact, in a way, I know it's a really silly thing to say, but in a way, the pass was more beautiful than the goal.
I would agree with that.
It was just quite magical, wasn't it? The way
it was perfect.
It was majestic, wasn't it? It just landed majestically for Lookman. And actually, I have to say, I was watching it and I had Felicity beside me who was doing some sewing on her sewing machine. And so I was I'm watching the game and, you know, I'm just looking at Felicity and making sure she doesn't have a needle through her finger or what have you. And and we scored. And I saw obviously the pass from Anderson. And then we scored. And I sort of blanked out for the bit that Lookman's foot connected to the ball and we scored. And I said,
it happened so fast.
We just score.
Yeah.
And I think being a Fulham supporter, you sort of don't believe that sort of stuff can happen at the moment because we've not seen anything like that.
Yep.
That sort of majestic cross. And I didn't believe it happened at first. I thought it went the other side of the net. And then I was like, oh, we scored. But it was beautiful. And actually, you know, Lookman, I love Lookman. He is up there in my top 3 players for Fulham. I really like him. But I just thought that the pass was magnificent.
Yep.
I would have been very disappointed if he didn't score it. I'm going to say that. I think it, you know, it was handed to him on a plate there, but he deserved it. And I think it had to be him who scored it for me because he needed that. He needed that confidence boost. And I think it will do so much more now for us as a team going into the next few games. But it was thoroughly deserved. You know, we started that second half so well. We went out there to win. We went out there as the big brave Lions with the very sharp teeth, and that was our bite right there.
Absolutely. And I'm going to share this again from our friend Tony Gold. Second half, shackles come off, more intent and urgency. Took the chance. Absolutely, Tony, you're right. Yes. And I do want to mention, I do have some comments from Fulham supporters talking about my thoughts on man of the match being Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Sully's, I'll get to that when we talk about man of the match. I understand where you're coming from. I'll read your comment when we get to man of the match because you disagree with me. I understand that based on your comment, but I thought for 60, 65 minutes he played well. But I understand why you would not pick him for man of the match, but we'll talk about that in just a bit. Okay. Let's get back and let's talk about the second half. And what's interesting, and we see this all the time, guys, Fulham score, and then you kind of have to hold your breath. You really have to hold your breath right afterwards. Like Claire's laughing because she knows I'm right, that they're going to give up that goal. Listen, we saw that against Burnley. You know, again, a team is very vulnerable right after you score. It's said time and time again. So what happens? Only a few minutes later, you have Areola, again, great opportunity for Sheffield United. He makes a great save because if he doesn't make that save, we're talking about a completely different situation for Fulham. But then we have, again, we have a couple of other opportunities from Fulham, a decent opportunity. Again, listen, I do think we need to talk a little bit more about Ola Aina. Max, we talked a little bit about him, but again, he has that in his arsenal that he can actually shoot. And 73rd minute, he forced a decent save from the goalkeeper there. And, you know, again, it was a fingertip save. It's a save he should make. But still, again, I want him to shoot more. And, again, then I want to go to this, guys, because I want your thoughts about this. And I want to see if you agree or disagree with Emilio from last night. Let's talk about the substitutions. Okay? Max, over to you. Do you think Fulham pulled something, again, do you think Scott Parker did what he would have done last season and tried to just see the match out 1-0 with the substitution of going to, again, 3 at the back again, going to 3 center backs? Do you think he was just trying to see the match out? Your view with that particular substitutions and the substitutions in general?
I agree. Yeah, that seems to be the strategy because I think he pulled off Maja. Kind of went without a striker for a while, and then
Yeah,
he
you put
put on
Lamina on from
yeah,
Maja.
and then Tete comes on, so Aina shifted to the center back position.
Yep.
Yeah, it totally was setting up shop, which made for some very nervy moments, especially when we saw the 7 minutes of additional time from nowhere. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. It made us nervous, and we really, really invited pressure.
Yep.
But I think Parker made the gamble, which did pay off, that Sheffield United have no shooting boots. They're at bottom for a reason, and we could withstand it, which we just about did. But I think the nerves are very high. I could not. I couldn't stomach it, and actually, the match was ruined for me in a good way, because here on Peacock, it's a bit of a delay, I guess, from the actual action.
My son ruined the ending, by the way.
Good,
my son came in and told me they won, and there was still 2 minutes to go, Max.
No, I was the same way.
I knew 2 minutes before it ended.
It was a 96 minute, and I got a text from a friend who isn't a Fulham fan but knows the sport. Fulham. He got a notification. He said, "Huge win today." I'm like, "Oh, we've done it," and it was great. But I was like, I still watched the last minute. It was the weirdest feeling in the world watching that last minute.
I know. I felt it's funny you say that, Max. I felt the same way as my son Brady runs into the room and says, "Dad, you won." I'm like, "What are you talking about? There's still 2 minutes left." You know. I was like, "Oh." But you know what? Yeah. Watching those last 2 minutes, like you said, Max, was very weird, because you knew that they were going to win, but I was still worried. I don't know why, because they had already won.
But at the same time, I really didn't think it had to be that way. I'm not going to fault Parker too much, because I think but we could have just possessed the ball like we did for the first 45 minutes. We could have just kind of killed off the game by passing them to death. I don't really think we had to just park the bus and invite all those crosses and situations where they could have got a goal. And honestly, I don't think they deserved a goal, but it wouldn't have been a total smashing grab if they got a goal, because they really had 3 or 4 good opportunities in that final 20 minutes, I feel.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the controversy here. So let's talk about it now. And Claire, I'll go to you. I want to get your thoughts about that, because again, what's interesting, when I watched it live, I didn't see this as a penalty. Of course, then you see the replays, and then the announcer says, "That looks like a penalty to me." And I'm like, "Oh no." But what was interesting, the minute he said that, I guess right after that, VAR had already ruled that it wasn't. It literally, the announcer says, "That looks like a penalty." Well, VAR have already said it wasn't, so we were off the hook. But when you watched that, were you thinking, "Uh-oh, here we go"?
I mean, I did listen to yourself and Emilio talking about the match yesterday, your post-match rundown, and
thank you, Claire.
And it was good, actually. I do like listening to you and Emilio, I must say.
Thank you.
But I actually didn't think it was a penalty.
Okay.
I'm at
Max, you already said that too, right?
Yeah, I know a lot of people on your show last night were saying they thought it was a pen.
Yeah.
And people on Twitter were saying, I actually looked at it, first look, I just didn't think it was a pen. And usually I'd look at something like that and think, oh, and then hold my breath until, play goes on. But I didn't. I just thought it wasn't, and I knew it wouldn't be one, and we moved on, and it was quite easy for me. But the one thing I would say was, had it been, and we were only 1-0 down, it would have been all those lost opportunities.
We would have come back and we would have looked at all that. That's a good point.
We would have been talking about all of that, wouldn't we?
But it's all the fine margins, though, that we've talked about with Fulham. It's so close.
Exactly. But no, I mean, if I was a Sheffield United fan, I would have been calling for a pen all day long, of course. If the shoe was on the other foot, voice would be sore from still talking about it now. But I didn't think it was. I thought it was for wanting to use the least technical way of saying it. I thought it was fair game.
Okay. Max, what is your view of this? Again, like I said, when I watched it live, I didn't think it was, but when they showed the replay, but then I kept seeing I saw Areola getting the ball, so I'm thinking, okay, it's fine. But again, it's how you interpret it. What did you think about it when you watched it?
Yeah, I think the ball's there to be won, and if goalkeepers can't come to challenge for that ball, then I don't know what their job is. So That's the way I view it. And the huge thing was, you're right. He got the ball first. He gets the ball first, and the player's there because the player has, I don't know who it was on Sheffield United, maybe Bogle.
Bogle. It was Bogle.
Bogle had every right to go for it. It was a fair 50-50 challenge, as people said in the comments. And, in a 50-50 challenge, someone gets there first. It wasn't a dirty play by Bogle at all, but he just came off a little worse because he was second best to it. And I think it helped that Areola also went down injured too, because I think that changed the perception of it.
Comments while we talk about this.
Yeah. But I think we're very fortunate that the ref didn't go to the monitor, because I feel like oftentimes when the ref goes to the monitor, almost in the West Ham United case with Suchek, the more they see it, the more they convince themselves, it's a pen. So I was amazed at how quick that VAR check went. It was probably the quickest of all time.
Quick. That was extremely quick.
Yeah.
Thank you, VAR, for that one.
Yeah. I think Brian Lake said earlier on in the match, VAR is his man of the match. So
He did. He did. I wanted to find that comment because I thought that was funny. Yep. He did say that Brian Lake said that man of the match was VAR, because again, when you look at it, again, it could have gone against Fulham, but in this case, it went Fulham's way. And going back to maybe the rub of the green went Fulham's way for once, because I've seen so many times that it goes against Fulham. Okay, guys, quickly, let's go to man of the match, because I do have some bonus topics at the end of the show. I've already said Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and I just want to go back and look at the comment from Sully's here, and I'll share it, because he said Ruben Loftus-Cheek is no good, surely not your man of the match. He has no assists, no goals, really dislike him as a player. Okay, I still see the potential in Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I think maybe that's the problem, Max, is that I look at more of the potential. But I thought for 60, 65 minutes, like I said on full time, I thought he was excellent. But I think he faded as the match went on. But you can go many different directions on man of the match. So who is your man of the match?
I'm going with Lookman. Maybe a bit of the basic, obvious answer, but he's a man who provided the difference in this match that kept it from being just another 0-0. What could have been. He's the one who got that cutting edge, that finishing touch. And I think it was a really good goal. I think we talked a lot about the pass, which is obviously excellent, but I think he still had a lot to do. He still had to beat his man. He did that. He followed through, got a lucky ricochet, but he gambled on it. He didn't just give up or be weak. He was strong. He powered through. I think the finish is purposeful in many ways. I think he saw Ramsdale's legs and thought, if I smash this hard and low on target, right through his legs, that's a goal. So I really appreciate Lookman's contribution there. And if it wasn't for him, I think we'd still be talking about next season in championship. Honestly, that's how high the stakes were. So,
yep. Okay.
It's Lookman.
All right. How about you, Claire?
I'm going to cop out completely and give it to the whole team. I think we played confidence in a game that, you and I, Russ, we had this conversation pre-match that there was such stake.
There's a comment from Brian Lake.
Such pressure. There was such pressure riding on this match. It was almost, a Wembley versus Brentford again.
It was a team victory.
For the players to go out under that much pressure and play the way they did, they really controlled the game throughout. The whole team, all of them.
Okay, excellent.
And backstage.
Okay, excellent stuff. Okay. All right, guys, let's go to my bonus topics. I have two of them. Let's start with this one. And I find these stats interesting, so I want to have a discussion on it. Arsenal have one loss less than Fulham. Think about that. One loss less. And Leeds United have one more. So you have to ask yourself, why? Why? Again, it's just it's all about the draws. We know that, guys. But it's more than that. It's about not scoring enough goals. That, to me, what it's really about. It's really about the lack of cutting edge. I think we know this, but I just find it interesting because I think it also tells you we're not that far off if we have similar loss totals to Leeds United and Arsenal, Max. So I wanted to bring that up. Your thoughts on this, because I'm a glass half full guy. This, to me, I think, believe it or not, is a positive stat, because it shows me that if they start scoring the goals, we are going to go further up the table, because we're not leaking goals. We are not at all. And we're not losing matches. So what does this tell you?
Yeah, it tells us that this is just a team who can hang with any side in the division. The question is, can we push in front of them and get our noses in front and actually win matches?
They can play with anyone. That's actually a great way to look at this. Can play with anyone.
I think
well, we'll see about Man City.
You look at our 4 losses, I think, in the past, however, I think 15 or 12 or so matches, we lost 4. I think all of them are centered against the Premier League top 4, United, City, Leicester, Chelsea, or might be 5th. But I mean, the only match we really lost recently have been to the best teams in the league.
That's right.
And that says a lot, is that we have the potential to play against anyone. It's just the question is, can we win? And if you asked me, a week and a half ago, I would have said, unfortunately, no, we're close, but we're not there yet. Talk to me today, right now, I'd say we've shown that ability to get wins. And why not go to Selhurst Park and get a win,
Absolutely.
Why not take points off Liverpool, who are in free fall? Spurs,
why not?
Free fall.
That's my point.
That's what I think gives the confidence. And I think you could have said that, again, 2 weeks ago. You could have said, we're in it, we can still get it. But we hadn't seen the evidence of us getting that winning momentum. Now that we've won 2 matches in the span of a week, I really think we could see, the floodgates open.
It's very interesting, and I'm glad that you brought this up because I wasn't even thinking it at the time, Max. I think you nailed it better than I did. They can play with anyone. This proves they can play with anyone. Your thoughts, Claire, because when I looked at this, I was kind of surprised by it. I didn't realize that Arsenal have only lost one less than Fulham, which I find fascinating. I know Arsenal's not having the greatest season, but it's still Arsenal. And then you see all the praise that Leeds United has. They've lost more matches than Fulham. So this tells me what Max just said. I know I just mentioned the lack of scoring and obviously drawing, but it also shows that they can play with anyone and they can get points off of anyone.
Yeah, and Max, you summarised it beautifully when you said Fulham can hang with anyone, and you're right. That is spot on, and it is all down to, I think, Max, you might have said it earlier, having more teeth, being a little bit more gutsy, having Josh now in front of goal. We've got Mitro. Hopefully he'll find some form again at some point between now and May. But, we do have the teeth there and we just need to see it more. We've got the confidence. Let's just get those teeth because we can do it. And that stat right there shows it, And I do think, there are teams that are looking at the fixture versus Fulham and thinking, oh, let's brace ourselves for that one. That's not going to be easy.
I think that's a great point as well, because I think teams are going to look at Fulham differently and give them more respect. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you can take advantage of teams that don't respect you, but I think even if they respect you, I think that's actually a good thing because I think that plays into Fulham's potential that they have on the pitch. I think they have a talented squad. It's probably, again, it's lower to mid-table talent, but again, there's some talented players out there. They can hang with anyone. I think they're showing that they can hang with anyone, Claire. So good stuff from you. Guys, I want to end with this because, again, I think this is something that we're going to have to continue to watch if we're going to focus on Fulham and Newcastle United. But like I said, there are other teams. The goal difference is now 6 between Fulham and Newcastle United. We actually need this to continue to stay where it is or grow, because if it does come up to that final match, this could be the difference. This could absolutely be the difference. I think this is a stat we need to continue to watch. The goal differential between Fulham and Newcastle United. Fulham are at -11. Newcastle United are at -17. Thank you very much, Manchester United, for your 3-1 win, because you now extended it by 2 more. So this is something to watch, guys, because Fulham are not leaking goals. If they're losing close. The one match that scares me is getting shellacked by Manchester City. Beyond that, I don't see a team really doing a number on Fulham, including Liverpool. So I think they can keep this goal differential fairly, in my opinion, fairly in this range. That's my opinion based on how Fulham are playing defensively. Max, what are your thoughts about the goal difference? Could I be onto something that this might be difficult for Newcastle United, because I think Fulham can really keep the score down and not be leaking that many goals, that the goal difference could really stay consistent here.
It's a good point, and it's so crucial because everyone knows the 23rd of May It's
It could
Newcastle,
come all
Fulham at
down
the
to that,
Cottage,
and
right?
this might be
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah, and that means that all we have to do is be within touching distance of Newcastle, 3 points, which is the gap is currently. So people are saying all we have to do is match Newcastle United's results for the next 12 matches and win it with a shot, and we can just win and stay level on points, but superior goal difference. And that is something which I could see happening, very much so.
Yep.
The only thing that scares me about that situation is hopefully we don't have to be in that situation. We're already clear by then. What scares me is that Newcastle United parked the bus to the 100th degree, because a draw would be good enough for them to stay up, and we need to win.
That's a good point.
And we've shown a real, difficulty at breaking teams down. That's the only thing that scares me.
Yep.
But that's many months away. We have 3 months away. We have a lot of football to be played. But yeah, I mean, it's great that the goal difference is superior. We have better goal difference.
That's right.
And I think the biggest thing now is momentum. We're on the way up, Newcastle on the way down. And it's simple as that we're trending upwards and they're looking over their shoulders nervously.
That's right.
And what position would you rather be in? Honestly, I think I'd rather be us right now.
I would rather be us. I know probably others might still say Newcastle United based on stats of where the two teams are in the table. I get that, but I think momentum is something, and I think Fulham have an opportunity to increase this goal differential, and I think that, again, they need to increase this buffer. 6 is nice, but I want it to be more. Here's an interesting point from Stefan. Does it mean we cannot take the game to a team where we can win, but can defend well against better teams to get draws? It's an interesting point. Your thoughts, Max, and then I'll get your thoughts on that, Claire.
That's 100%. That's what's it. Yeah, it's spot on by Stefan, is that the reason we only have 4 wins. Look at the teams around us. Even Newcastle have 7 wins. Look how many wins Palace have, et cetera. They have 7 or 8 wins, and that's why they're above us. The table doesn't lie.
Yep.
It's that we can stick with teams that can't push ahead. So, Good point.
Okay, and Claire, I'm going to share this and get your thoughts. This is from Dan Mason. Goal difference worries me because we might start playing very negative trying to keep it. It's an interesting point. Your thoughts about the whole goal difference, Claire?
Well, I mean, it's basic rule of football, isn't it? You got to score goals to win games, and that's basically what we've got to do. And hopefully not just by your 1-0s, but let's start cranking them up to your 2-0s, because that's the only way I think that we're going to really feel safe. But I think it's also worth noting that we're not that far behind quite a few teams right now.
I know. Someone just
talking about
messaged that.
But there's other teams around us that if we start winning and they drop some points, then, this whole Newcastle Fulham thing could then be, we're talking about 2 or 3 or 4 teams.
Could be Brighton and Burnley.
But I do think that, we've got that belief. We're building that momentum, that confidence. I think there's no reason why we can't start scoring, a couple of goals a game.
I like that.
But I'm so confident with our defense right now, and it's been a long time since I've been able to say that. It really has, and our defense, I would say, is solid, and touch wood, it will remain that way.
Yep.
So it is. It's just focusing on those goals, and not just focusing on 1 stat or 2 stats. We just need to go out there and try and win every game we can. So we're not looking at goal difference.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And what's interesting, this goes back to our former topic that we just talked about. Fulham can play with anyone. So I'll say it again. Why can't they beat Tottenham at home? Why can't they? Why can't they beat Leeds United? Why can't they go to Aston Villa and win? We think that they can get a point from there. Why can't they win it? They've already done it at Everton. Why can't they go to Villa Park and win that match? There's no reason why they cannot.
Yeah.
And I think us as fans, we need to, I shouldn't say need to. We should also consider the fact that it's a different type of season. They're really, the home and away advantage is really thrown out the window because of the pandemic and not being fans. So it really comes down to who's better on their day. So if Fulham are better on their day, they can go to Villa Park and win. They've already shown that at Everton. If there's a full house at Goodison Park, to Fulham win that match, I would like to think so, but I think it's a factor. I think this is all a factor. So, again, it's a level playing field without supporters there. And I think that, believe it or not, I think that actually helps Fulham in some ways. I think it hurts them at home because I think Fulham really benefit from the Craven Cottage support the support they get at Craven Cottage. We saw that against Liverpool. Let's hope fans, the possibility that fans could be allowed at the end of the season, that would certainly be great against Newcastle United. Let's just, we'll see how that all plays out, and let's just hope everyone stays safe and we get through this pandemic together. I just want to mention that. That's the most important thing, staying safe. I don't want fans going back until it is safe to do so. Guys, we went way over. Great show. Optimus Max is back. I'm telling you, I can finish the show with a huge smile on my face.
Same, Ross. Yeah, it's what winning does. It's that winning mentality, and long may it continue. There's still a long way to go. Let's not get too happy. I know. We have to win probably 5.
I know. You got to put me back down. I know.
Got to win 5 more matches, and we won 4 in the first 25. So it's not going to be an easy task, but we have something to hold on to, and we have hope, and that's all we can ask for.
We certainly have hope. And every time I talk to Claire, I always have hope. And Claire, you and I are very similar with our beliefs. I know you have hope.
Oh, 100%. And Russ, I just share this again because I was saying Max to Russ yesterday. What Parker needs to do is before every game now, just play one of those wonderful Great Escape 2008.
She said that
from YouTube. He just needs to whack that on, say, there you go, guys, go out and do your thing, because those videos on YouTube are phenomenal.
Oh, they're unbelievable. I could watch them all day.
Absolutely.
And what's great about it is that they're very inspiring because they show you what potentially can be. And they show you that you're never, again, I shouldn't say never, but you always have a chance until you're eliminated. You always have an opportunity. You can get that close to being eliminated, but as long as you have a chance, you need to keep fighting. And that team fought to the bitter end. And thank you, Danny Murphy, at the very end for his goal of Portsmouth. And the rest is history. It can happen. Let's hope it doesn't even come down to that Fulham continue to win. And like I said, you never know. This is a strange season. Again, they beat Everton. I keep going back to they beat Everton. They beat Everton at Goodison Park. Anything is possible. All right. Great show, guys, but it's getting very late for Claire, so we have to wrap this up. For Claire and Max, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.